So if you're a fan of our channel or The Boys and are on YouTube frequently, you have probably seen our first video from last year covering the power of the Seven. If you have not seen that first video, I highly recommend checking it out before this one, as I will not be going over all of the feats and scaling from Season 1, although I will refer to some of that information. So go and watch that now and then come back. With that being said, let's get started with the same character who kicked off our last video, Black Noir. Black Noir was an instant fan favorite in Season 1 and also in Season 2. He got much more to do throughout the 8-episode run this season. In Season 1, we were able to scale him above Kimiko in skill and match her strength, putting him at or slightly above wall level. In this season, he seems to stick around that same level. In Episode 1, we see Black Noir go up against Naquib, the super terrorist who uses his signature power to cause a massive explosion, blowing out the windows and doors of the building they're in and setting everything on fire. While this does damage Black Noir somewhat, he was unfazed and unmoved by this attack. Whether his extreme pain tolerance is part of his unique abilities or he's just that much of a badass, we're not really sure, but this feat stays in line with what we've witnessed in Season 1 and is easily his best feat of the season. Additionally, Black Noir is able to behead Naquib, who also has enhanced durability, as we see in Season 1, where he is able to completely shrug off point-blank machine gun fire. In Episode 7, Black Noir goes head-to-head with his former Seven teammate, Starlight. In this fight, he's seen tanking her light blasts, which are unable to even damage his suit, so clearly Starlight's blasts are weaker than what Naquib is capable of. However, Starlight can amplify her blasts, which she was not able to do here. So he's tossing her around and slamming her through solid concrete, which is consistent with our A-Train, Kimiko, and Black Noir scaling from the first season. But it's not just his outright stats advantage that allows him to dispatch Starlight. He is also much more skilled in hand-to-hand combat, despite Annie having trained literally her entire life to become an elite soup and is shown dispatching elite mercenaries at the end of Season 1 with her hand-to-hand skill. In Episode 5, Noir tanks all of the explosives set up by the boys and is entirely unfazed by, again, point-blank gunfire. As for speed, of course, he stays pretty consistent here as well. He's able to fight Starlight, who is roughly equal to Kimiko's speed, but what is interesting is we get more of a quantification of this speed in Season 2 when Mother's Milk says this.
Maybe we can make a run for it. Just get to the car.
He moves faster than a car.
The average top speed of standard vehicles in the US is about 120 miles per hour, meaning he's somewhere around the range of subsonic or faster than the eye can see if we take this statement at face value, which I think we can because the boys have specifically been researching the Seven. They know the most about these characters in the entire world. But what I find most interesting about Black Noir this season is we see much more of what seems to be Black Noir's signature skill set, stealth. First, he's able to infiltrate the super terrorist hideout without being detected and goes completely under Starlight's radar when he attacks her. Although when tracking the boys, Billy Butcher is able to spot Noir on the opposing roof preparing to take them all out. But Noir did go entirely undetected while following Billy to their hideout. When he does finally go in to dispatch the boys, he also uses gas grenades as cover and to disorient the team. Next, let's discuss A-Train, the only speedster left with a head by the end of the season. Of course, at the beginning of the season, A-Train is sidelined and then kicked out of the Seven due to his prior Compound V abuse, which had negatively affected his heart. Due to this, A-Train is left out of most of the combat during the season. However, he does make one insane statement during Episode 8 after he jumps into Huey's car while it is still in motion. After being freaked out by A-Train's sudden appearance, they ask how he could possibly have found them, to which A-Train says he can cover the boroughs of New York City in about 3 hours. Now, that may not seem that impressive, but we have to account for the sheer size of New York City, which is roughly 302.6 square miles. To cover this entire area in 3 hours, A-Train would be moving about 85,000 miles per hour, or roughly Mach 111. This is assuming A-Train paves his way through every square inch of New York City, which is probably unlikely, although he did say he could do it, not that he has done it. And he didn't have any idea where Huey and Annie were, so he had to go in and out of, up and down, search all the floors, buildings, rooms of every building within New York City while running around. So there are a lot of different factors here. But again, A-Train specifically said he could cover the boroughs in like 3 hours. So with that being said, how likely is it he actually reached this speed? Well, in season 1, his best feat is the statement of him outrunning bullets, which is about 1,000 miles per hour. And in his fight with Starlight, he was moving faster than her light beam attacks were. So you tell me, is he a bullet timer, high hypersonic, massively hypersonic, faster than light? Who knows? A-Train is a complete enigma. Although I would take this statement with a grain of salt. After all, these characters do like to boast and brag up what they're actually capable of. So when they make statements about themselves, it's a little bit rough unless you get confirmation from another character within the universe. As for A-Train's fellow member of the Church of the Collective, the Deep, he does absolutely nothing this season besides get knocked out when he falls over in episode 3. And speaking of former members of the Seven, Lamplighter, the second strongest member of the Seven per our previous video, makes an appearance this season, and he does not disappoint. We see him turn a soup into ash on screen, which confirms his ability to do so, and we also found out that he needs a source of fire to burn something. He can't create fire, however, he can manipulate and amplify flame. The act of turning a human body into a charred pile of ash we cover in our previous video, so again, be sure to check that out. But what I'm really impressed by is this feat here. When Frenchie attacks Lamplighter, Lamplighter inadvertently fires a powerful stream of flame at a solid metal door, which I'm safely assuming is a steel door, and upon further inspection, it's hard to tell exactly what happened here. But it makes sense that he melted down and evaporated the steel with his intense heat, because shooting a stream of fire at something couldn't possibly just blow a hole in the door, as there's no shrapnel or anything inside the room, so that seems unlikely. Additionally, if the metal was just simply melted and not evaporated, the molten hot steel would still be all over the ground, so it makes the most sense to me that Lamplighter vaporized the steel, making him far more powerful than simply turning a human into ash, which keeps Lamplighter consistently above the other members of the Seven. This is assuming the door is made of steel and not some other more durable metal within the boys' universe, as it was able to contain the soup, who helped the rest of the prisoners escape captivity. To vaporize this much steel, Lamplighter would need to be outputting 1,690,201,116.36 joules at a low end, and 3,380,402,447.6 joules at a high end, upgrading him from small building level to building level in terms of power scaling, keeping him as one of the strongest members to ever be in the Seven. If you'd like a detailed breakdown of both the A-Train calculation and the Lamplighter calc, check the description. Thanks to Nairobi, who helped calculate these feats for this video. Their Twitter is also linked in the calcs. Now, for these last few characters, I'd like to take a look at all of them simultaneously while we scale each off of Stormfront and Black Noir, and we'll get into all of it. These characters being Stormfront herself, Kimiko, Starlight, and Queen Maeve. Stormfront is the first ever recipient of the Compound V formula, and also one of the most powerful soups created by the serum. Her abilities include super strength, speed, durability, as well as the ability to fire purple lightning like some sort of white supremacist Palpatine. Her ability to summon this lightning also gives her the unique ability to fly. As for her power levels, I think it's safe to say she's stronger than Kimiko, Starlight, Maeve, and Kenji, Kimiko's brother, who could toss around trains and helicopters with his telekinesis, although I don't think she's that much stronger. When fighting Kimiko and Starlight, her most useful ability is her lightning, which she uses to great effect to toss around her enemies, although it's hard to say just how powerful this lightning is. It never really does that much when she uses it. I mean, almost everyone hit by it shortly recovers after, including Billy Butcher, who to our knowledge is still just a regular dude. A badass regular dude, but a regular dude nonetheless. As for outright strength, she broke Kenji's hands and Kimiko's neck after overpowering Kimiko with her lightning blast, which she relies on heavily, as I mentioned earlier. Little to no punches are ever thrown by Stormfront. Now, there is one small caveat I'd like to mention in reference to Stormfront's overall strength. It says on the boys' official website that she can fling anything lighter than a 747 out of her way. Now, that is referencing a Boeing 747. And this plane's maximum takeoff weight ranges between 735,000 pounds to 975,000 pounds, which would put her way out of the range of wall level, obviously. But I'm not sure what to make of this, as this is kind of an outlier, as the rest of the physical feats that we see kind of debunk this whole thing. And when you're power scaling, it's typically feats over statements. Like if a character has been unable to perform a specific feat that a statement says they can do, then clearly the statement is just incorrect, and we should go with what we see on screen and not necessarily what is said about the character. So if the statement was in line with what we've seen on screen, then I would say sure, she's much more powerful than we might think. But in this instance, I would say it's a little bit of an outlier or a little bit of an inconsistency considering what we've seen in the show. But where she really shines is her endurance, durability, and regeneration. We knew she was powerful when she had that super awkward scene with Homelander where she is seen getting a lengthy beam of energy fired at her chest, which she tanks for a significant amount of time. I'm also assuming here that Homelander was holding back somewhat, unless you just want to concede that his son Orion is far stronger than his father already, because he just one-shot Stormfront entirely. Additionally, and I know this is weird, but she was able to endure multiple trips to Pound Town with Homelander, but again, he's probably not putting everything he's got behind his patriotic pumps. In her fight with the trio of Kimiko, Maeve, and Starlight, she takes a ton of abuse from each hero and is still able to escape with her life, although each one of her assailants was able to make her bleed with their strikes, scaling each one of them to Stormfront's durability. And if you remember what we spoke about in the first video and the beginning of this one, Kimiko is roughly wall level in attack potency, putting Starlight and Maeve at this level as well, with Stormfront's durability around here too. But the one interesting point I would like to make here is that Stormfront was able to get stabbed in the eyeball by just a regular person. So, I mean, I don't know if this is just a weird writing outlier, or maybe her durability is decreased as she takes more damage and needs to regenerate, but we don't know. I mean, she was shot point blank by multiple characters with gunfire, so it's kind of weird. As for speed, she would simply scale to Kimiko, who scales to or slightly above Noir, who again is quote-unquote faster than a car. Another direct comparison between Stormfront and Black Noir is their inability to react to Starlight's light beams, which both characters were blitzed by. And finally, Homelander, who honestly doesn't do much again this season in terms of powerful feats. He lasers some regular Joes, threatens and hurts Starlight, tanks a train being dropped on his head, among other low-tier feats. However, he does have a great statement this season, just like the last season, where he claims that he will destroy everything and everyone, simply meaning he's the strongest soup on the planet. I mean, everyone is still terrified of him, and Maeve seems to believe Homelander could kill everyone on Earth if he really wanted to, so Homelander, in my opinion, is still top dog by a wide margin, unless you want to make the argument that Ryan is stronger than him. Again, Ryan does pretty much just vaporize Stormfront and turn her into an Anakin Skywalker wannabe, and he also pushes over his father earlier in the season. So, I mean, the argument can be made. But that's it for this season. I believe that's every major character that has any kind of interesting scaling. Of course, there were other characters that showed up throughout the season, new soups, and of course, the insane soup that was released from Vought's captivity, which I'm sure we'll see much of next season. And I mean, there's Vic to consider, but she, other than blowing up everyone's head, doesn't really do much, so I don't really want to cover that character until next season, where I'm sure she'll have more information surrounding her abilities, what they're actually capable of, if they work on every soup regardless of their durability. We'll find that all out, I'm sure, in the next season. But what do you guys think? Do you think this is pretty accurate? Let me know down in the comments. Also, be sure to watch that part 1. I don't know if you watched this entire video without seeing that, but as you noticed, I did reference it quite a few times because we did absolutely cover everything from season 1. So be sure to check that out. And remember the motto, it's the boys over everything. And I'll see you guys next time.